Close your eyes, just for a second. Imagine you're standing on a train platform at midnight. The wind is biting, the lights flicker. You've been waiting for hours, for a train that might never come. Around you, strangers rush past. Some holding hands, others buried in their phones, all moving somewhere. But you're still hoping. Is this it? Is this all there is? Then a voice cuts through the noise. You're not waiting for the train. You're waiting for the courage to walk to the next station. There's your hook. That gut punch of a question, where is your soulmate right now? And why are you letting their absence define your presence? Because here's what no one tells you: the word soulmate has been hijacked. It's not a person. It's not some magical stranger destined to complete you. It's a mirror, a challenge, a call to confront the parts of yourself you've abandoned in exchange for someone else's love. Let me ask you this: what if your soulmate isn't out there waiting for you, but inside you, waiting to be reborn? Think of the last time you scrolled through a dating app, swiping left on faces that felt like dead ends, whispering, "They're not the one." Or the nights you spent replaying conversations, wondering, "Why don't they get me?" What if the problem isn't them? What if the person who truly gets you is the one you've been avoiding in the mirror? A poet once wrote, "You cannot find your soulmate until you stop looking for a savior and start looking for a partner in the mess." Let that sink in. We've romanticized soulmates as flawless beings who'll rescue us from our loneliness, our fears, our boring Monday mornings. But real connection, the kind that shakes your bones, doesn't happen when you find someone perfect. It happens when you find someone real. And that starts with you. There's a trap in the question: where is my soulmate? It assumes you're half a person, that your worth is locked in someone else's DNA, that the gap in your life is a person-shaped void instead of a soul-shaped wound. I've met people who've waited decades for the one, only to realize they'd become unrecognizable to themselves in the process. One woman told me, "I built my whole identity around being someone's missing piece. But what if I'm the puzzle? What if I'm the one I've been trying to solve?" The danger of outsourcing your wholeness is that it turns you into a spectator of your own life. Science says loneliness is a killer, more dangerous than obesity. But here's the twisting: you can be surrounded by people and still feel alone. Why? Because connection isn't about proximity, it's about presence. And how can you show up for someone else when you're still haunted by the parts of yourself you've exiled? A mentor once told me, if you want to find love, stop looking for the hand that fits. Start becoming the hand that gives. Your soulmate isn't waiting in a coffee shop or a LinkedIn message. They're in the reflection of the courage you're too scared to claim. The poet Rumi said, "You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the entire ocean in a drop." But most of us are walking around acting like puddles. Half evaporated, murky, waiting for rain to make us whole again. So where is your soulmate right now? They're in the version of you that dares to ask, "What if I'm enough right now?" They're in the risks you're avoiding, the conversations you're postponing, the art you're not creating, the boundaries you're not setting, the laughter you're stifling, the tears you're swallowing. The truth is, your soulmate is wherever you're willing to meet yourself. Tonight, stop scanning the horizon for a savior. Start building bridges to your own heart. Write the letter you've been too afraid to send. Delete the app that's become a shrine to your insecurity. Call the friend you ghosted. Forgive the parent who hurt you. Sing off key in the shower. Dance like no one's watching, because they're not. They're living their own story. Your soulmate isn't lost. You are. And until you stop waiting and start wandering, you'll never find the most important love, all of the one that starts with you. The floor is yours. The journey, always yours. You ever had that moment where you catch yourself staring at your reflection, not just seeing the face, but you feeling the weight of every decision, every compromise, every part of you that's been shaped by what others wanted? That ache in your chest isn't just loneliness. It's the echo of a voice you've muted for too long, your voice. The one that used to dream before the world told you to be realistic. The one that used to believe before disappointment taught you to hedge your bets. That voice isn't gone. It's just waiting for you to stop outsourcing your worth to someone else's approval. Let me ask you this, things. Why do we romanticize the idea of a soulmate like it's some cosmic lottery ticket? As if love is a transactioning if I'm nice enough, patient enough, small enough, someone will finally see me. But what if love isn't a reward for good behavior? What if it's a rebellion? A refusal to let the world define your value? A friend of mine once said, "Oh, I spent years waiting for someone to love me unconditionally, lied until I realized I'd never loved myself unconditionally." That hit like a thunderclap, Because here's the truth, you can't receive what you don't embody. Think about the relationships that left you hollow. Not because they were bad people, but because you showed up as a shadow of yourself, hoping their love would fill the gaps. You curated your personality like a museum exhibit. This is the version of me you'll tolerate, and then wondered why you felt invisible. But how can someone love the real you if you're too scared to meet yourself first? A mentor once told me, but you don't need a soulmate to complete you a mirror. And sometimes that mirror has to be you. Let's get raw for a second. What are you hiding from yourself? The grief you stuffed, moving on, felt like a deadline. The rage simmering beneath your polite smile. The shame that whispers, you're too much and not enough. Those aren't flaws. They're fragments of your soulmate waiting to be reintegrated. Every time you scroll past a trigger, mute a memory, or laugh off a wound, you're not protecting yourself. You're abandoning yourself. Science says chronic loneliness alters your DNA. It rewires your brain to seek connection at any cost, even if it costs your peace. But what if the antidote isn't found in another person's arms? What if it's in the courage to sit with the discomfort of your own company? To say, I'm not okay, and that's okay. One woman told me she finally stopped swiping when she realized her dating profile was a resume. Skills, sarcasm, resilience, pretending I'm fine. She deleted the app and wrote herself a letter. Dear Meg, I'm sorry I left you alone for so long. That letter became her new soulmate. Here's the reckoning. You've been looking for someone to rescue from the parts of yourself you hate. But what if your soulmate isn't coming to save you? What if they're waiting for you to stop running from the parts you love? The artist in you that still aches to create. The rebel who refuses to settle. The child who still believes in magic. Those aren't relics. They're your compass. A poet once wrote, you will never be lonely if you learn to enjoy the company of your own heartbeat. So ask yourself, when's the last time you sat in silence without distraction? Without scrolling to outrun the noise in your head. Try it tonight. 5 minutes, just you and the sound of your breath. Notice the urge to escape. That's where your soulmate lives, in the spaces you avoid. And what about the risks? The ones that keep you up at night. Not the risks of dating, but the risk of being you. What if you quit the job everyone praises but secretly despises? What if you told your family the truth about how their words wounded you? What if you let yourself want something and didn't apologize for it? That's where your soulmate walks beside you, in the choices that terrify you. Here's the secret, no one wants to hug your soulmate isn't a destination, it's a direction. Every step towards self-compassion is a step toward them. Every time you choose honesty over performance, courage over comfort, you're not just finding love, you're becoming it. So tonight, ask yourself again, where is my soulmate right now? They're in the breath you're holding, the words you're swallowing, the risks you're refusing to take. They're in the art you're not making, the love you're not giving, the truth you're not speaking. They're in the courage it takes to say, I'm done waiting for someone else to light my fire. Your soulmate isn't lost. You are. And the only way to find yourself is to stop waiting for someone else to lead the way. The flower is yours. The journey, always yours. You ever had that moment where you realize you've been living your life like a borrowed book? Pages dog-eared by other people's expectations, margins scribbled with their opinions, and the spine cracked from trying to hold yourself open for everyone else's interpretation. You're not even sure what your own handwriting looks like anymore. That's the cost of outsourcing your soulmate search. You become a note in someone else's story. Let me ask you this, what if the word forever has been misunderstood? We attach it to relationships, jobs, cities, identities, as if permanence is proof of purpose. But forever isn't a timeline, it's a state of being. A friend once told me she stayed in a relationship for 8 years because she thought forever meant clinging to what was familiar. One night she asked herself, would I choose this if I knew I only had 24 hours left? She left the next morning. Forever isn't about endurance, it's about alignment. And if you wouldn't choose it today, why are you letting it define your tomorrow? Here's the paradox, we crave connection in a world that's hyper-connected yet soil-starved. You can text someone across the globe in seconds, but how long has it been since you sent yourself a message that didn't start with, I should or I'm sorry? We've turned love into a transaction, a LinkedIn profile, a dating app bio. But real love, the kind that shakes your bones, starts with the audacity to say, I am enough, not in spite of my flaws, but because of them. A poet once wrote, the body is a temple, but most of us live in the basement, afraid to turn on the lights. What if your soulmate is waiting upstairs, in the rooms you've locked for decades? The ones filled with unfinished art, unsent letters, unspoken grief. You keep swiping, scrolling, searching for a sign, while the greatest miracle is already inside you of the ability to love yourself through the mess. Think of the last time you canceled plans to hide in your apartment, binge watching shows that numbed the silence. Not because you were tired, but because you were too exhausted to pretend you're okay. What if that silence isn't your enemy? What if it's your invitation to finally listen to the voice you've muted? The one that says, "Hey, I'm still here. I've always been here." Science tells us that trauma lives in the body. It's stored in the shoulders you carry tense, the throat that tightens when you swallow hard truths, the chest that aches when you hold your breath waiting for someone else's validation. But what if healing isn't about finding someone to kiss the scars? What if it's about touching them yourself, tracing their edges and whispering, "These are not proof of brokenness. They're maps of survival." Here's the reckoning. You are not a project. You are not a list of goals to be fixed, a resume to be polished, a checklist to be completed. You are a living, breathing paradox, flawed and fierce, scared and sacred, messy and magnificent. And until you stop editing yourself for approval, you'll never meet the soulmate who's been waiting for the real you. A mentor once told me, "You don't need to find your soulmate. You need to become one with yourself." That's the work, the daily act of choosing presence over performance, of saying, today, I'll trade the armor for authenticity. I'll swap the mask for my own face. Imagine waking up and thinking, I am not a problem to be solved. I am a mystery to be explored. So tonight, do something radical. Stop waiting. Stop scrolling. Stop building altars to the idea of while neglecting the altar inside your own heart. Write the letter. Burn the contract you made with shame. Dance in the kitchen like no one's watching. Because they're not. They're too busy fighting their own wars. Your soulmate isn't lost. You are, and the only way to find yourself is to stop waiting for someone else to lead the way. The floor is yours. The journey, always yours. You ever felt like you living in a house built by someone else's blueprint? Every room designed to impress. Every wall painted in colors that don't match your soul. You walk through life opening doors that lead to dead ends, wondering why the key never fits. That's the cost of outsourcing your soulmate search. It turns you into an imposter in your own life. You start believing love is earned, not embodied. And somewhere along the way, you traded your compass for a crowd's applause. Let me ask you this, what if the word forever isn't a timeline but a threshold? We cling to relationships, jobs, identities as if permanence proves purpose. But forever isn't about endurance. It's about evolution. A friend once stayed in a job for a decade because she thought loyalty meant suffering silently. One night, she asked herself, would I choose this if I knew I only had 24 hours left? She handed in her resignation the next morning. Forever isn't about clinging to what's familiar, it's about stepping into what aligns. And if you wouldn't choose it today, why are you letting it define your tomorrow? Here's the paradox: we crave connection in a world that's hyper-connected yet soil-starved. You can text someone across the globe in seconds, but how long has it been since you sent yourself a message that didn't start with, "I should," or "I'm sorry"? We've turned love into a transaction, a dating app bio, a LinkedIn profile, a curated Instagram feed. But real love, the kind that shakes your bones, starts with the audacity to say, I am enough, not in spite of my flaws, but because of them. A poet once wrote, the body is a temple, but most of us live in the basement, afraid to turn on the lights. What if your soulmate is waiting upstairs, in the rooms you've locked for decades, the ones filled with unfinished art, unsent letters, unspoken grief? You keep swiping, scrolling, searching for a sign, while the greatest miracle is already inside Yarg of the ability to love yourself through the mess. Think of the last time you canceled plans to hide in your apartment, binge watching shows that numbed the silence. Not because you were tired, but because you were too exhausted to pretend you're okay. What if that silence isn't your enemy? What if it's your invitation to finally listen to the voice you've muted? The one that says, I'm still here. I've always been here. Science tells us that trauma lives in the body. It's stored in the shoulders you carry tense, the throat that tightens when you swallow hard truths, the chest that aches when hold your breath waiting for someone else's validation. But what if healing isn't about finding someone to kiss the scars? What if it's about touching them yourself, tracing their edges and whispering, "These are not proof of brokenness. They're maps of survival." Here's the reckoning by. You are not a project. You are not a list of goals to be fixed, a resume to be polished, a checklist to be completed. You are a living, breathing paradox. Flawed and fierce, scared and sacred, messy and magnificent. And until you stop editing yourself for approval, you'll never meet the soulmate who's been waiting for the real you.